Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a really fun video that I have previously done in the past, but today I'm in a filming mood and I just really wanted to sit down and revisit some of my favorite books that I personally wish that I could read for the first time all over again. Like, experience all of the emotions for the first time, not know anything about the plot, what's going to happen, just be immersed in these books again and have my first reactions and just experience my first reactions all over again. I personally, when I read books, most of the time, if I rate something 5 stars, it's because I had a very emotional reaction to the book. I cried, I got upset, I was wowed, I was shocked, just all of the above, okay? So if you've watched me for a while, you probably could guess most of the books on this list, but anyway, I still wanted to sit down and talk about them because, I'm obsessed with them and I love them. Most of them I have special editions for because they're literally some of my favorite books. But yeah, let's just go ahead and jump right in. So you guys know I love Gianna Darling. Gianna Darling is one of my favorite authors in the entire world. I literally have a whole ass shelf for her right there, like literally right behind me. And I went back and forth on picking, the antiheroes and love duet because I do have 2 different special editions of that book, and that's one of my all-time favorite, mafia romances. But I decided to go with Inked in Lies for this video because this book, I feel like, in the Fallen Men series is so underrated. I have 3 copies of this book, okay? I love Nova and Lila. I don't know what it is about them as a couple. I don't know if it's the friends to lovers part, friends to enemies to lovers just a little bit. I don't know if that was what it was, but for me, Gianna wrote them as a couple where you experience them from a very young age and you experience literally them growing up together. You see the trauma that they go through separately and together. You see how they both have to make choices, in their life and going forward. And they just have this mutual love that's always there, whether they're together as a romantic couple or when they're younger and they have this found family thing about them. Obviously, her older brother is Nova's best friend, and so when something happens to him, they both really cling to each other and they cling to that found family and love for each other. And that kind of, as they get a lot older into their 20s, they, not that they lose that because they still have mutual respect and love, but it's finding their way back to each other in a romantic way where they find out how to express that romantic love that they have for each other. So I love the growth. I love the journey. Of course, it has Gianna's spice. It has her writing, her very flowery and romantic style in her writing that I absolutely love. This is one of the most beautiful written books, I think, in my opinion, just because I personally love her writing. And I just wish I could sit with those feelings again. I just wish that I could sit in this book and read this book for the first time again and just experience everything that they're experiencing, because Gianna writes it in a way that you're literally experiencing what they are experiencing and how the emotions that they're going through and they're feeling, you also feel. You literally feel like you're your own character in this world that you're looking in. It's like you're watching a movie while you're reading this book. It is just so beautiful. And I feel like it's a book that's very underrated in the Fallen Men series because everyone loves Zeus. Don't get me wrong. I love Daddy Zeus. I love King. I love Priest for all of those crazy and wild things that they do. But Nova is the Casanova, the pretty boy, the beautiful man, the playboy, the womanizer. And then you have the opposite, Lila, where it's just she's this beautiful old soul that speaks to Nova in a way that no one else has. So first book, we're already talking for 3 minutes about it, okay? Like I said, I'm obsessed with these books, okay? The next one I have to talk about, I feel, is also an underrated book in this series, and that is Sinner by Sierra Simone. I personally believe Sinner is the superior book in the Bell Brothers series, or in this, what is this series called? I can never remember. But out of all the Bell brothers, Sean Bell is literally my baby. I will protect him at all costs. And I honestly think it's because as the oldest child, I related to him. So in this book, you see that he's the oldest child. A lot of things that has happened to his family, to his parents, and he's the one who steps up and kind of takes control of the situation, which is a very much an older sibling thing to do. And not that he resents his younger siblings, that's just how he is. And I see a part of myself in this book. So when I read this book, I felt like I didn't have the appreciation for Sean Bell as I did after I read the book. Like, taking a step back after I read the book, and I was like, wow. Like, obviously, Sierra Simone writes in any, like, different than any other person. She makes you think. She makes you emotionally attached. She kind of turns your beliefs on its head. And I personally really love that. Like, that's personally why I love her writing so much and why she's one of my favorite authors. But at the same time, I feel like after I read Sean's story, I took a step back and I sat with it, and I was like, wow, I related to this man so much more than I realized. And it made me sad that I couldn't go back and experience it all over again, that I couldn't read it for the first time and have those, like, emotions. Like, now when I reread, I know what's going to happen. I know all the things that he's going to do. I know his choices that he's going to make. So it takes, like, the shocking part out of it, but it's also the decisions that I would also make. So this is one that I just wish I could just dive into the book and reread for the first time. Obviously, Sean and Zinni have a explosive romance, but I would love the characters in this book. The characters get me in this book. The next one I want to talk about is not going to come as a surprise if you've watched my top books of the year, and that is Saving Six. So I would love to reread Joey's story. I mean, honestly, the whole Boys of Tommen series as a whole again for the first time, and just sit with my reactions again, because I was emotionally involved. Emotionally involved with these characters to the point where I cried when they cried. I, got mad when they got mad. When something exciting happened, I got excited. You know what I mean? Like, I felt everything that these characters were feeling. And I honestly think that's because of the way Chloe Walsh wrote the book and how she wrote so much detail. Like, these are thick books, and a lot of people think, like, oh, they're just on their day-to-day thing going through their life. But that's the way she writes, in a way that you feel like you're immersed with those characters. You're going through their day-to-day life with them because, like, so you can get attached. So when the things happen in this book that happen, and in the next book, you are just as shocked, you are just as emotionally invested, you are personally committed to these characters and seeing what happens to them. So, like, that's a testament to Chloe Walsh's writing, and I think it's a tactic. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone can sit down and write the mundane day-to-day life things that happen between Joey and Aoife and Johnny and Shannon, and watch as their romance kind of grow with each passing day, and, like, really dive into the decisions that they make, and you see the reasons. Like, not only are you told the reasons why that they made these decisions, but you also see the reasons why behind it. So it's this all-encompassing series that literally, like, I feel when I pick up these books, even now rereading them, when I pick up these books, I really feel like I'm with these characters. I really feel that I am sitting with them. I am exploring everything with them. I feel that I am just with them as a character and just living living with them. And I absolutely love it. And you cannot tell me otherwise. These are my ride or die books that I just absolutely love them. The next book I would love to experience for the first time is actually a shocking one, because some people are going to be like, you would love to reread that book and experience for the first time. That is Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman, okay? When I read this book back in 2022, I think it was 2022, January 2022, I was rocked to my core about this story, because it was so shocking. The shock factor in this book is not going to be for everyone, but for me, it is something that I absolutely loved. I loved that we got to see these two characters that are forced in this horrific situation, right? And it's not easy reading those things. Like Jennifer Hartman really goes to town on and in these books and what's happening and everything, right? And for me, when I read them, seeing the outcome after, how they were able to pull through, and it was touch and go for a little while, but it was so realistic that it's just like such a realistic reaction to what happened to them that I loved it. Like, I absolutely found this a beautiful story. It's not a very long book. It is, this very dark emotional romance that, like I said, it's not going to be for a lot of people, but for me, I just remember, like, closing the book thinking, wow, that was a beautiful book. And for me, once again, I had an emotional reaction. You emotionally connect with the characters. You feel for them. They make real and raw decisions that sometimes may or may not have a happily ever after. Like, they go down these different paths that don't always have a happily ever after. And you have to figure out how they go switch to the other path, and how they make those decisions, and how they have to, crawl out from the darkness that they were kind of thrust upon in, because they were captured and kidnapped and forced to do unspeakable things. So it's very hard. It's very hard, but I love it. I love these characters. Dean and Cora are so amazing. I have 3 copies of this book because I love it so much. This is a special edition for Mystic. And these characters, like, they just feel, all of these characters literally feel so real to me that I loved it. Like, I love this. I love experiencing this and reading this for the first time. And I wish I could again, because I remember my reaction just being like, wow. The next book that I wish I could read for the first time is going to shock some people. And that's Shadows of You by Catherine Cowles. And the only reason why is because you know me, I am not a romantic suspense girly. It's not my favorite thing to read. It makes me anxious. It makes me like hang on the edge of my seat. And when I'm reading a book, I like to relax into it. You know what I mean? Like, I like to be calm or just like fall into the characters. I don't like to be like page turning anxiously trying to figure out who's trying to kill this person. Okay. But this book literally like shocked me. When I got to the plot twist of like who did it type of a thing, I could not believe it. I was like, how did I not see that coming? Am I stupid? I messaged all my friends that read it. I was like, how did I not see this coming? Am I stupid? They're like, we didn't see it coming either. I was so shocked. But also the romance in this book was so easy. These characters fall in love so easily. They just naturally fall into this rhythm. I mean, they're put in this position where they're forced together. When they're forced together, they fall into this rhythm of life together that is so beautiful. They just complement each other. They get each other. They don't have to speak that many words. And for Roan, he doesn't speak that many words in general, but Aspen just gets him. He doesn't have to speak that many words for Aspen to get him. She just gets him. And the daughter in this book is literally out of this world. One of my favorite characters, like child characters, like where the characters have children. So like one of my favorites in this book, like I had a dedicated color tab to her commentary, to what she brought to the story, because one, it was just she's funny, but also at the same time she brought something out of Roan that he's never experienced before. Like, his family has kids, but this kid brought something out of him that he just felt even more protective, and I love it. I fell in love with the story. I wish I could read for the first time so I can have that genuine shock of the plot twist again, because it really threw me for a loop. I do have another book that's exactly that, and that is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. You guys, I've read this book back in 2021. When I got to the end of this book, it was 2 a.m. My husband was sleeping next to me, and I screamed. I was like, this cannot be happening. This is not true. Like, it can't be true. That's not who he is. There's no fucking way that this is possible. And for some reason, I love those kind of plot twists in books where you vividly have to have a physical reaction, where you want to throw the book, where you want to scream into it, where you want to tear it apart, where you want to keep reading and you can't put it down. But then the next book you don't have, or you have to continue into the next book to see what's happening. That was this book for me, and I absolutely loved it. 100% absolutely loved it, fell in love with it, cannot recommend this series enough. It's still ongoing, but I love the series. And if you know, you know, I've talked about this book so many times in so many videos. I think in my original, like, books I wish I could read for the first time, this book was in there, because like I will never forget my reaction to the end of this book. Never in my life. The next book I wish I could read for the first time is Rio by Kennedy Ryan. This is actually the book that I designed with Dark and Quirky. Oh my God. I was in a booktube box with a couple other booktubers. This was my design. This was my book. I absolutely love it. It's my baby. I love this book for the writing. I love Kennedy Ryan because it's Kennedy Ryan, and she writes in only Kennedy Ryan way that she can. But when I read this book, I felt so seen in this book because of the chronic illness rep and how she handles her chronic illness, that I wish I could read it for the first time, because I have not read a book with a chronic illness similar to mine and the way that Neva handles her chronic illness. And so I'm just like attached to this book personally for that reason, because everything that she was feeling, I felt in a previous, you know, in months ago, years ago, whatever. And I just felt so connected to her because I felt so seen. And I'm like, girl, I get you. I understand what you're going through. I 100% get it. And I love this book for a personal reason. Like, it's not everyone's going to feel this way, but for me, I thought it would be worth mentioning just because I related to Neva so much. And yeah, I love this book. Love it so much. And the last book is If You Know, You Know, and that is Cresen City 2, House of Sky and Breath. Now, if you have read this book and you got to literally the last line of this book, you know what I'm talking about. And I wish I could read this book for the first time, because I see people's reactions to the last line of this book. And I will say that I accidentally spoiled myself for this book. It is no one's fault. Literally no one's fault but myself. I wanted to see how many pages there were in this book to see kind of like how many I had to read. I think I was vlogging it or something. I just wanted to see how many pages, like outside of the acknowledgments and the extra stuff. And I looked down at the very last line that's close to the page, and I saw the line, and I spoiled it for myself. And I didn't have those reactions, and I wish I would have had my reaction. Like, I wish I would have seen what my reaction was, because I'm such a big Sarah J. Maas fan. Reading this book, I had read everything that she's previously published, and I just love her writing so much. So I wanted to read that last line and have my reaction and see what it would have been. You know what I mean? Because I spoiled it for myself, and that is totally my fault. Completely my fault. But Flame and Shadow is coming out soon. When I'm filming this, I'm kind of pre-filming, but I cannot wait. I'm not going to spoil myself for anything in Flame and Shadow. If anyone spoils anything online for me, I'm going to come for them. Don't do that to people. That's rude. But I spoiled myself for this. That's just my fault. But yeah, I just wish I could read this for the first time just to see my reaction to the last line. But thank you so much for watching this video. It was so fun to just sit down and gush about some of my favorite books. For the emoji, drop me a crescent moon emoji, because Cresen City, because I just talked about that book. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.